Okay, I'm just going to record a couple more episodes tonight. I've done loads today. I've done more than is probably healthy for my sanity, but I think we're going to see this through. Okay, I want to try and get to part 150 by the end of the day. I think I'm going to make it. I think this is part 147. Okay, let's do it. Okay. Lucario suddenly made a blue baton in the form of a bone long enough to use with both hands. "Stop him with Slash!" the other trainer shouted. Chris's Lucario evaded the Hyper Beam, and he used Force Palm right into the stomach of the Ursa Ring. He yelled in pain, and it was instantly paralyzed. Maylene's Lucario swung the bone, colliding with the Slash of the other Ursa Ring, but with enough force, the bone rush was too much, and the Ursa Ring was going to fall back. "Use Force Palm on the head," Maylene commanded. Her Lucario jumped high in the air, and his fist glowed, and it punched Ursa Ring in the forehead. The Ursa Ring was getting weaker, but suddenly he fell on the floor defeated. "Ursa Ring!" his trainer shouted, worried. "Ursa Ring, use Karate Chop," the first trainer ordered. The hand of the Ursa Ring glowed, and it was going to hit Chris's Lucario until his Lucario grabbed the glowing hand with one hand. "Huh?" Maylene said in surprise. Chris's Lucario looked behind him, and he lashed the Ursa Ring, still using his hand, to the floor. The Ursa Ring bounced 2 times, and he fainted. "Ursa Ring!" the first trainer said, worried. "We won!" Chris and Maylene said in unison, jumping. Pichu also was jumping. Their Lucarios returned to their sides, and the trainers called their Ursa Rings back to their Pokeballs. They thanked both Lucario's users. They thanked them both. And they left. I thanked both Lucario's users and they left. "As I've said before, you've trained very well your Lucario, Chris," Riley said, smiling. "I was very surprised at how your Lucario was able to lash that Ursa Ring with just one hand," Cynthia said. Again, it's okay when she says it. Alright? It's fine. "And to think that Ursa Ring was bigger too," Maylene said, rubbing her Lucario's head. "One of these days, I want to challenge both of you," she said, pointing at Chris. "Well, sure, we can have a fight later," Chris said, rubbing his head. "Let's move on. We can't waste any second in this task," he said, walking away with his Lucario. Cynthia, Riley, and Maylene with their Lucarios followed them. It was very close to the city now. Maylene looked at some trees in the way, and she remembered when her Riolu evolved. Flashback. "Why did you have to punch that Mighty Ina? What the okay, whatever. It's a Pokemon. Let's find out what variety it is. Oh fuck! It's not responding. Mighty Ina. Maybe it's. I think it's probably going to be Mightyena. That's not what I requested. Actually, that's Ursa Ring. We've been through this. Oh yeah, I think I looked at Oh, I remember. That was one of the ones in that big list back in the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon thing when I was looking at tons of them and just remarking on how they're just kind of like regular animals. That's the just a dog. That one. "Why did you had to punch that Mightyena? He is surely searching for us to eat," Maylene said as she was holding her Riolu in her arms. "He was very hurted. There were a lot of bruises in his body, and he could barely even walk." "I'm sorry, Maylene. I think I overdid it a little. I'm never going to underestimate my foes," he said in a weak tone. It was raining too. Maylene and Riolu were escaping from a Mightyena that Riolu had punched him on the face while he was sleeping. Oh, dickhead, why'd you do that? He woke up enraged, and he saw Riolu in a fighting stance. The Mightyena was fast and slashed Riolu several times using his claws and fangs. I'm not surprised, you fucking deserved it. After Maylene managed to distract the Mightyena to grab Riolu and run away, they ran as fast as the feet of Maylene could take them. "Ah!" Maylene tripped on the ground and Riolu fell too. "My leg! It hurts so much!" she said, holding her left leg. "Maylene!" Riolu shouted, walking to her. He somehow was able to stand up without tripping. "Are you okay?"
No, my leg hurts so much. Riolu, you must flee away from here now. Hurry! What? I can't do that. What if that mighty Enna tries to kill you?
He asked with teary eyes.
It doesn't matter. I just want you to live. I can't do it. Sorry, Maylene. Forgive me.
Just then the mighty Enna finally appeared in front of them. He was growling as he was showing his fangs in rage. Maylene gasped, and she started to cry for her life. But Riolu stood in front of her with his arms opened. Oh shit, alright.
Don't take her. Take me instead.
He said, oh damn, that's touching.
Riolu!
Maylene said, crying. Rah! The mighty Enna lunged at Riolu with his mouth opened. Maylene closed her eyes to not see how Riolu was going to suffer, and then Riolu's eyes widened when the fangs of the mighty Enna bit his right arm.
Riolu!
Maylene shouted. Her voice was echoing in all the rain.
I'm sorry, Maylene. If only I were bigger and stronger.
Riolu thought, crying. Well, as good luck would have it, suddenly Riolu began to shine intensely. The eyes of the mighty Enna widened. He backed away and he closed his eyes. Maylene opened her eyes when she saw the light coming from Riolu. She saw Riolu growing. His tail got bigger, as well as the rest of his body. I thought they evolved from winning fights and shit. I don't know if why is this from just whatever. He backed away and he closed his eyes. Maylene opened her eyes when she saw the light coming from Riolu. She saw Riolu growing. His tail got bigger as well as the rest of his body. His tail got bigger as well as the rest of his body. The little steel parts of his arms turned into sharp spikes, and one also appeared on his chest. His ears grew, and his sacs. Well, you know what they say about puberty. His sacs on his face disappeared, but 4 new sacs appeared behind his head. His torso was no longer blue. Yellow fur grew on it instead. Two black rings formed on his shoulders, and his eyes turned sharper, and the black marking of his face was now crossing his head in both sides of both ears. His nose was now a little longer. There was also a black marking around his lap that looked like he was wearing a belt. Since Maylene was still a little girl, Riolu was now bigger than her.
And that is exactly what I'm going to use to protect her,
he said, glaring at the mighty Enna. Maylene also noted that his cute little voice turned into a menacing voice. Well, that's subjective. It turned into a menacing voice. She saw the wounds of Riolu disappeared in the process too. He ran with his fist ready to punch Mighty Enna. He did. And Mighty Enna went flying to a nearby tree, at least it wasn't a wall, and he yelled in pain when he fell. Then he shook his head and ran away scared.
Riolu,
Maylene said, very surprised at the sudden change of Riolu.
I'm no longer Riolu.
Riolu turned his back to see Maylene.
I'm now Lucario. Lucario?
Maylene asked. Lucario nodded and he kneeled to her.
Your leg is still hurting you? Yes.
When she said that, Lucario grabbed her with his arms carefully to not touch her leg.
You don't have to. No, it was my fault for enraging that mighty Enna in the first place.
Maylene blushed a little and she nodded slowly. Lucario smiled a little.
Now let's get to our house. If I remember, your mother is making rice for dinner. Yeah, let's go,
she said, smiling and blushing. Lucario walked to their house as he was carrying Maylene on his arms. In the middle of the way, Maylene yawned and she closed her eyes. She moved her head to Lucario's face, and she also wrapped her arms around his neck. And she strangled him. Lucario closed his eyes and smiled. Then the screen looks slowly to the rain, and the clouds disperse, and the light of the sun came from the sky once again. End of flashback. Then the screen looks slowly to the rain. A tear appeared on Maylene's left eye, and she whipped it out.